The Way In. Episode 8. Lost Signal. Chapter 1. Mara. Sleep has become a tactical problem. That's the simplest way I know to say it. Not an emotional one. Not even a psychological one, although it is certainly both of those things too. Tactical, because sleep is absence, and absence is vulnerability. And vulnerability is the condition under which every terrible thing in my life lately has begun to happen. I don't trust what happens when I'm not fully aware anymore. I don't trust the threshold between waking and dreaming. I don't trust the space inside my own mind that used to feel like the only place no one else could enter. By the time the sun starts bleeding through the edge of Carver's blinds, I haven't closed my eyes once. Carver hasn't slept either. I know that not because he told me, but because men like him don't have to say they've been awake all night. You can see it in the set of the shoulders, the way the face tightens around the eyes, the way routine becomes sharper when exhaustion starts threatening control. He's been moving through the apartment since dawn, crossing from the wall of files to the kitchen counter to the table and back again, never pacing without purpose, always carrying something from one place to another, like motion itself might produce the answer before thought catches up. Carver says Nathaniel adjusted. That's the word he uses. Adjusted. Not reacted. Not panicked. Not improvised. Adjusted. It's exactly the right word, which is why I hate it. When Nathaniel established his presence in me yesterday, in the middle of our conversation, and used my eyes to look at his former partner, he wasn't lashing out. He wasn't seizing an opportunity out of instinct. He was checking the board, seeing what we had, measuring our progress, reminding Carver that distance had become optional. We go over the details about the motel again, more clearly this time. I tell him what I felt after Nathaniel exited. The residue, the stale air, the overworked wall unit, the sound of interstate traffic close enough to register through cheap walls. Carver doesn't need me to say much before he interrupts. He's definitely local, he says, which means he's closer to acting physically than I'd like. The phrase lands badly, closer to acting physically. Because until now, even with everything I've seen, some part of me has still been thinking about Nathaniel in abstract terms. A presence, a force, a methodology with a face. But the truth is uglier and simpler than that. He is a man in a motel room off an interstate. He uses burner phones. He drives roads. He sits outside apartment complexes and studies windows. He buys water at gas stations. He leaves tire tracks and receipts and dead devices in trash cans. He is not just what happens inside minds. He is moving through the world. I tell Carver I think I can go back. He doesn't answer immediately. That's one of the things I'm learning about him. When he hesitates, it isn't indecision. It's filtration. A sorting mechanism. He lets a statement settle just long enough to see whether it collapses under its own weight before he commits any energy to it. I don't know how, I add. I don't know if I can force it. But there's still something open between us. I can sense it. He looks at me then, fully. You're sure? No, I say. But I'm sure enough. That makes him almost smile. Close enough for this. Then he says the thing that changes the direction of the day. Then we stop reacting, he says, and we start using it. That's how I end up in the office of Dr. Ellen Voss. Chapter 2. Reciprocity. Dr. Voss's office feels more like an interview room than a place built for healing, and I'm grateful for that immediately. No soothing artwork, no carefully staged warmth, no candles or throw pillows or manipulative softness, pretending the mind is safer when surrounded by gentle textures. There is a bookshelf organized by category, a government-issued desk, 2 chairs that look chosen more for durability than comfort, and a wall clock that ticks just loudly enough to make silence measurable. Carver made the call before I could ask whether he knew someone trustworthy. Trustworthy was the wrong word anyway. What I needed was someone anchored in reality, enough not to flinch when mine started sounding distorted. Someone with enough institutional loyalty to keep this contained, and enough private intelligence to understand why containment mattered. Dr. Voss is all edges. Mid-50s, sharp posture, eyes that don't dart when something sounds impossible. She listens without interrupting while I give her the version of events that is both accurate and survivable in daylight. I don't use the word possession. I don't tell her I sometimes feel like a passenger inside my own body while another man moves through it with better access to my limbs than me. I give her enough to work with, but nothing that says I'm crazy. Loss of agency with retained awareness, somatic delay, dissociative partitioning under stress, witness state persistence during episodes, increasing bidirectional residue. When I finish, she folds her hands once and says, "What you're describing is not impossible." Carver shifts against the wall behind me. I don't turn. "It's unusual," she continues, "and some of your interpretations are clearly informed by context I'm not endorsing. But the experience itself, what you're telling me your body and cognition are doing, can be approached clinically." I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. "What do you mean?" I ask. "It means your brain has built access pathways under extreme stress that should not remain active this cleanly, but they have. Most people dissociate by losing continuity. You appear to be retaining continuity across states." Carver finally speaks. "Can she control it?" Voss glances at him, then back at me. "Probably not at first. Control is the wrong goal anyway. Recognition comes first. Stability second. Repeatability maybe, if the pathway is real and not just episodic." That's more hope than I expected and less than I'm comfortable trusting. She gestures toward the chair in the center of the room. "Sit." I do. Carver stays where he is, near the door, arms crossed. Not intrusive, not absent. A man trying very hard to be useful in a process that requires him to do nothing. "I'm not putting you under," Voss says. "This is not stage hypnosis. I am not taking you anywhere. I'm helping you follow a route you've already traveled." "What if I can't find it?" "You can," she says, "or you wouldn't be afraid of what happens if you do." That answer annoys me because it's probably right. The first attempt fails, not dramatically. Nothing cinematic. I close my eyes, regulate my breathing, follow her instructions, and feel almost nothing. A flicker of wrongness at the edges. The brief suggestion of lag, then it's gone. I come back annoyed, embarrassed by how much I wanted it to happen on command. Voss doesn't react. "What did you do when it happened naturally?" she asks. "I wasn't doing anything." "That's not true. You were already in the threshold. Reconstruct the threshold." So I try again. This time I stop trying to reach Nathaniel and start reconstructing the pathway itself. The hypnosis isn't sleep. It's directed recall sharpened into something more exacting. I follow the sequence from the moment I found myself seeing through Nathaniel outside Carver's apartment. The cold air, the wrong weight, the broader shoulders, the asphalt under borrowed shoes, the visual angle that didn't belong to my body, the sensation of awareness without ownership. Voss's voice becomes almost incidental. Not because it disappears, but because it stops mattering in the same way the map stops mattering once you're on the road. "Don't force the destination," she says quietly. "Follow the mechanics." So I do. Weight, breath, distance, delay. The sense of standing behind a life instead of inside it. There, that's the hinge. The moment I recognize the hinge, everything inside me shifts. The chair beneath me is still there, but farther away than it should be. My breathing changes rhythm. The room feels one fraction behind itself. Then, the connection takes. No fall, no panic, just entry.
Chapter 3. A New Way In. Nathaniel. The easiest lies are the ones systems tell about themselves. Security, privacy, permanence, integrity, institutions, families, passwords, locks. Most of them are little more than ritualized confidence. They work because people need them to work. The moment you stop respecting ritual and start studying architecture, entry becomes a matter of time. Mara's father is easier than Mara. That is not because he is weak. Weak men are often structurally chaotic, which makes them less useful than people assume. Chaos opens badly. It does not hold shape. Men like Mara's father are more valuable because their lives are arranged around self-concepts they still believe protect them: experience, procedure, familiarity, control. Former law enforcement men are especially vulnerable to that illusion. They mistake old vigilance for current relevance. They believe the past prepared them for every future variation of danger. They rely on habits that once kept them alive and never fully update the fact that danger evolves faster than they do. His email reflects that perfectly. Not careless, not exactly, but built on old assumptions. Enough procedural caution to stop children and casual thieves. Not enough to stop someone patient, someone who understands how people organize their private lives when they think nobody sees what's not meant to be seen. I don't need much. Just enough to confirm. The subject line does the work for me before I even open the message. Cabin, week trip. The body confirms the rest. Supplies, weather, leaving yesterday, no signal. We'll check in via payphone in town in a couple of days. I read it once, then again. The most important thing about a place like a mountain cabin is not the isolation itself. Isolation is a crude descriptor. What matters is the reduction of variables. No signal means no external verification. No neighbors means no accidental witness. Familiar terrain means the subject's body relaxes before the mind does, and by the time the mind catches up, it has already mistaken comfort for safety. Perfect. I write the details into the notebook in block letters because plans deserve physical form. Mara Vale, father, Blue Ridge Mountains, cabin, no service. Selection has always been the most pleasurable stage of any process because it is the stage during which the world reveals its own willingness to collaborate. People think predation depends on forcing reality into shape. It doesn't. Most of reality is already built in your favor if you know how to read it. The teacher hasn't spoken in hours. The last instruction was to tread carefully and not to act rash. I'm too patient for that. But time is of the essence if Mara and Carver are onto me. I can't risk them finding out more than they already have. It would put the whole network at risk. Still, I feel him in the edges of my thinking whenever I reach moments like this. Not presence exactly, more like permission or recognition. The sense that the pattern unfolding in front of me is not just useful, but correct. I close the laptop and sit back. Mara and Carver are a liability that must be mitigated. That much is obvious now. The overlap between them has become active. He no longer doubts her enough to dismiss her, and she no longer fears me enough to stay at a distance. That alliance reduces options but sharpens others. The father, trusted beyond measure, a history that can be manipulated. If Mara learns he is under threat, she will move emotionally for the first time in this process. Emotion degrades pattern discipline. It makes disciplined people improvise. Improvisation creates mistakes. I checked the map once more. Blue Ridge Parkway, narrow roads, low patrol saturation, easy places to abandon a vehicle if necessary, better places to observe first. I don't need to hurry. He left yesterday. He is already in place. When the subject is stationary, time belongs to the observer. I stand, cross to the sink, and run water over my hands for no reason other than to feel something cold and immediate before the drive. Then I stop. Just for a second, something shifts. Not in the room, in the connection, in me. The sensation is faint, but real. A slight back pressure. Witness where no witness should exist. It's gone before I can isolate it, but the fact of it remains. Interesting. Not alarming, but interesting. I write one more line in the notebook. Host adaptation may be reciprocal. I dislike the sentence as soon as it exists. Naming a possibility gives it mass. Still, disciplined men respect what they dislike. Mara is evolving, so be it. Then I close the notebook, kill the lamp, and begin packing for the mountains.
Chapter 4. Troubling Truth. Mara. I'm praying that he doesn't sense my presence, although it feels like someone other than me has occupied this space recently. I don't have time to investigate this thought. That's the first important fact. Stay the course. The second is that the motel room is clearer now than it was when I stumbled into it through the residue. My awareness stabilizes faster. The details hold. The air feels stale and overworked, as if the room has spent years cycling too many nervous men through the same failing machine. The lamp casts a cone of yellow light over the bedspread and notebook. The wall unit rattles with that specific exhausted rhythm cheap motel air conditioners seem born with. Interstate traffic hums beyond the walls, close enough to feel infrastructural, but not close enough to identify by lane. Nathaniel is seated at the table. I know it's him not because I can see his face, but because I can feel the shape of his attention. That's the strangest part of being in him. I don't just observe his actions. I brush against the geometry of his intent. Not clearly enough to read every thought, but enough to understand what direction his mind is moving in. The laptop is open. My body is miles away in Dr. Voss's office, breathing in controlled intervals, but every part of me tightens anyway when he opens the email. My father's name is there. That alone would be enough. But it isn't all there is. He clicks, reads, stills, reads again. And through the contact between his attention and mine, I feel something close to satisfaction. Not emotional pleasure, not gloating, but the quiet internal alignment of a plan becoming cleaner than expected. Cabin, Blue Ridge. No signal. Left yesterday. The pieces assemble too quickly to stop. He knows exactly where my father is, and more importantly, he understands what the cabin means as terrain, isolation, familiarity, fewer variables. A man alone in a place he believes he understands. The perfect place to take advantage of a busted-up old man and bend him to his will. The panic comes late because comprehension gets there first. No, not him. I try to move. Nothing happens. I try to speak and feel only the pressure of the attempt against a system I do not control. My awareness flickers, but holds. Nathaniel leans back slightly, and with the movement, I catch something else beneath the primary intention. Not a full thought. More like the emotional shape of one. This is elegant. That's the closest language I have for it. He isn't selecting my father out of rage or convenience. He is selecting him because of what it will do to me. My father is not just a target. He is foundation. One of the load-bearing stories of who I am. I feel Nathaniel's mind move across the implications and understand, in the same horrible instant, that he values this not only as a tactical move, but as a lesson. Break the father, bend the daughter. Or worse, use him against me. And Carver. That's the plan. It has to be. Something in me recoils so hard the connection destabilizes. The motel room blurs. The yellow light smears at the edges. Nathaniel goes still, just for a second, like he senses pressure in the glass. Then I'm gone. Back in my body. Back in the chair. And this time, the return is violent. My lungs drag air in like I've surfaced from cold water. The office tilts. Carver is moving before I can orient, but it's Dr. Voss who grounds me first, one hand on my forearm, voice low and clinical. Stay with me. Don't chase the return. Let go. Now, tell me what you saw. My dad, I say. The words sound wrong in my own mouth. Too small for the damage they carry. Carver's face changes. How? He found him. Who found him? Nathaniel. The name lands in the room like I've set something sharp on the table between us. I force the rest out. Cabin, Blue Ridge. No service. Left yesterday. The details come like a jigsaw puzzle, but complete enough to see a picture. By the time I say no signal, I've already got my phone out. I make the call. Voicemail immediately. Again, straight to dead space. How far? Carver asks. 5 hours, maybe more, I say. Depends on the road up. Dr. Voss looks between us, understanding only enough to know whatever happens next is no longer her room to govern. Carver doesn't hesitate. We go now.
Chapter 5. Unwelcome Guest. Nathaniel. Mountain roads have a way of stripping thought down to its useful components. No excess speed, no unnecessary radio, no conversation. Just turns, distance, and the occasional animal caught in headlights long enough to prove the road belongs more to the landscape than to the vehicle passing through it. Cities contaminate attention. Too many lights, too many contingencies. In mountains, the variables become legible again. Road, tree line, weather, sound. The cabin exists inside a narrower reality than the one Mara and Carver still believe they can manage from below. By the time I leave the highway and take the first county road into the Blue Ridge corridor, dusk has already started draining out of the sky. Good. Darkness gives discipline to a place. It removes decorative detail and leaves only what matters: angles, distance, illumination, access. The father's cabin sits where I expected it would. Not isolated in the cinematic sense, not miles from another soul. Just remote enough that no one comes without deciding to. Gravel drive, tree cover, one neighboring property too far through the woods to matter in a hurry, no visible camera system, no active floodlights, one main approach that can be watched from elevation. He chose the place for peace. Most men do. They don't realize peace and isolation are twins with different reputations. I don't drive all the way in. Never arrive at a destination before you've observed how it expects visitors to behave. I park off the road where the trees hide most of the vehicle from casual line of sight and walk the last stretch through the woods. The air is colder here than it was in the city. Cleaner, too. The kind of air that makes men nostalgic enough to underestimate what can move through it. I stop where the tree line breaks just enough to show the cabin through branches. One light on inside. Kitchen, probably. Another flicker farther back. Television or lamplight. Good. He's settled. Comfortable enough not to be hunting the perimeter yet. I study the approach in sequence. Porch. Side woodpile, window line, rear slope, storage shed 30 yards downslope, half hidden, an old pickup near the drive, no second vehicle, no dogs. The useful thing about the retired is that they rarely understand how visible their lives remain to someone willing to study them properly. They believe retirement, age, and routine make them less relevant to danger. In truth, those things simply make their patterns more predictable. Mara's father will not be an easy take in the emotional sense. Men like him never are. Former law enforcement retains itself in the body long after the badge is gone. He will still wake quickly, still hear the wrong sound, still notice silence when silence changes shape. But he doesn't have to be easy. He only has to be pliable. I crouch slightly and let the scene settle into memory. This isn't the moment to enter. Not yet. First observe, then pressure, then determine whether a break is available organically or must be cultivated more carefully. The teacher enters my conscious at that moment, and while most times I would welcome the intrusion, I am not receptive while in the planning stage. He warns me quickly about Mara's peek into my plan, and then he is gone again. That's fine. I know what I'm doing. Still, I think of Mara when I look at the cabin, not sentimentally, as mechanism. She will come if she understands what's happening. She will abandon discipline if the threat to him becomes immediate enough. That's useful. Carver will come too, because men like Carver cannot resist converging on unresolved danger once they believe it has become tangible. Perhaps, if timed correctly, the mountain will solve more than one problem. The thought is not yet a plan, but it has shape. I pull back into the trees and begin mapping the terrain in the same way I mapped Carver's apartment. Blind angles, exit routes, places a vehicle can turn around without obvious noise, distance from cabin to road on foot. How long it would take an unprepared person to respond if awakened from sleep. I retreat to the truck to sit and wait for the dark of night to take hold. Tonight, the mountain becomes the stage, and the stage is almost set.
Chapter 6. The Road Ahead. Mara. The drive begins in silence, and not the useful kind. Not the silence of concentration. Not the silence of mutual understanding. The other kind. The kind that develops when two people know too much has changed in too little time, and neither one wants to be the first to give form to the consequences. Carver drives. I watch the city thin into suburbs, then into long corridors of highway, where gas stations and truck stops become the last visible proof that the world still belongs to ordinary people. My phone lost signal intermittently for the last hour, and then completely. That alone is enough to make my chest tighten harder every time I look down at the SOS icon at the top of the phone. I should call my father again anyway. I know it won't go through. I do it twice more because hope is the strongest thing I have in me at the moment. Nothing. Carver says, "Tell me exactly how it worked." I know what he means. The connection? Yes. I look out the windshield for a moment before answering, not because I need time to invent something, but because I need to translate something that barely fits inside my own understanding. It wasn't like before, I say. When he takes me over, I feel displaced. I'm still in my body, but not at the front of it. This was different. I wasn't displaced inside myself. I was relocated. Carver glances at me, then back to the road. You were inside him. Yes. Watching, he says. More confirmation than question. Yes. Could he feel you? He asks. The same way you were able to sense him? I don't think so. Or not clearly. But there was one moment earlier when I thought maybe he sensed something was different. Carver is quiet for a few seconds. That isn't good. No, I say. And something else. A residual presence in him that was recent, but wasn't me. Without missing a beat, he says, one of the others Daniel was referring to. A sort of network, he finishes. That rips a small hole in me. I wasn't prepared to start batting around that idea yet, but there it was in all its glory. Terrifying, impossible, and still not beyond the scope of what we could be dealing with. Do you think you need Voss to help you do it again? Carver asks. Since the session, I had been feeling slight shifts in me, like when you have two doors at opposite ends of the house open, creating a wind tunnel of sorts. I'm not sure how I knew, but I felt like I could. So without second-guessing myself, I used the breathing technique Voss taught me and tried to relocate my consciousness like I did earlier that day. And for the third time, I was again a part of Nathaniel's consciousness. This time, it wasn't long before he sensed me, and like when one of the two doors in that wind tunnel closes, it slammed shut. But not before I had seen enough to shake me to my core. He's there, I say. At the cabin? Carver asks. What's he doing? Observing. That all? No. I keep my eyes on the road. He was evaluating terrain, access, escape routes, visibility, the same way he did at your apartment. Carver grips the wheel tighter, slightly, not enough that anyone else would notice. So, he hasn't moved yet. Not when I saw him. That doesn't mean he won't before we arrive. I don't answer because there's nothing useful inside agreement. The miles become their own kind of torture after that. Highway into state road. State road into county road. County road into a darkening corridor of two-lane mountain turns, where every oncoming set of headlights feels like interruption, and every stretch without them feels worse. At one point, Carver says, he's doing this because it matters to you. It isn't a question. Yes. And because he thinks it will change how you think. Yes. Another long silence. Then, unexpectedly, he says, it will. I look at him. He keeps his eyes on the road. But that doesn't mean he gets to decide how. That sentence stays with me through the next 20 miles. There is comfort in competence, even when competence is outmatched. Carver doesn't offer reassurance he can't justify. He doesn't tell me we'll make it in time. He doesn't say my father is tough enough, or Nathaniel is overreaching, or the mountain will slow him down. He gives me something better. A frame. Nathaniel wants panic. Panic narrows thought into reaction. Carver is forcing me back toward thought. I ask him then, because the road is dark and long enough that avoidance has become more dangerous than honesty. Did you ever think he was capable of this? Carver exhales once. Of violence? Yes. Eventually. Men like Nathaniel don't drift toward morality when institutions reject them. No, I say. This. He knows what I mean. The rest of it. The impossible parts. The blackout cases. The wrong men. The displaced witness language. The things no official report can hold without turning the person writing it into the next subject of evaluation. No, he says after a while. I thought he was intuitively dangerous, pathologically certain, too comfortable in torment. But I still believed the gap between understanding darkness and inhabiting it had to look a certain way. And now? Now I think I underestimated what the mind is truly capable of. That should sound like defeat or failure. Instead, it sounds like recognition of a gap in knowledge of the human psyche. Not for Nathaniel. He was given that knowledge by someone. The first gravel road appears just after dusk finishes collapsing into night. The tires sound different on it. Harder, more intimate. Every turn after that feels like a narrowing funnel. I check my phone again, even though I know better. Nothing. Carver says, "We're close." I know. I can feel it. Not because I recognize the road yet, though I do. Not because the trees thin in familiar ways, though they do. Because urgency has become physical. My body is leaning forward without permission, as if wanting can bend time. Somewhere ahead, beyond the next curve and the next stand of trees, is the cabin. Somewhere ahead of us, if I'm not too late, is my father. And somewhere in that same dark, Nathaniel is deciding whether observation has become action. For the first time since this began, I understand how thin the line is between being hunted and becoming willing to hunt back.
Chapter 7. Striking Distance. Nathaniel. There is a difference between patience and hesitation. The first is discipline. The second is fear wearing discipline as a costume. I have no interest in the second. Which is why I leave the truck where it is and return on foot after full dark, taking a longer route through the trees to get a better angle on the cabin before deciding how much of tonight belongs to observation and how much to entry. The father keeps lights in only 2 rooms. Kitchen. Back den, maybe. No floodlights outside, only 1 porch bulb and the pale wash from a fixture above the side door. The pickup remains where it was earlier. No new vehicle, no dog, no neighboring movement. The mountain keeps sound differently than the city does. Every small disturbance either vanishes into distance or arrives far clearer than expected. Useful once you understand it. I stop just below the rise overlooking the back of the cabin and listen. There, inside. A chair leg shifting over wood, a cabinet door. Then silence again. He's awake. Good. That makes the first pressure cleaner. Pressure should never begin with presence if presence can be avoided. Men like him need to start by feeling that something is slightly wrong before they can be guided toward naming the wrong thing incorrectly. I think of Mara's face when she understands what I've done, not because I enjoy the fear. That would be beneath the point. Because understanding reorganizes people. Carver will understand that too when he realizes the mountain has become the new board. If they are already coming, and they may be, depending on how much Mara carried back from the connection, then the window narrows but does not close. Narrow windows often produce the best decisions because they strip people down to impulse and hierarchy. Who do they protect first? Which truth do they trust under pressure? What parts of themselves do they abandon when timing becomes the enemy? Those questions interest me far more than simple harm ever could. I move closer. The edge of the clearing now. Cabin visible through brush. Kitchen window at an angle. No clean line inside, just moving light and shadow. enough. The first move should be small, not entry, not yet, just pressure. I step backward, circle along the side path, and find the old breaker box mounted near the crawlspace access, half hidden by overgrowth and age. The metal door hangs slightly crooked. Rural construction always trusts obscurity more than security. I open it carefully. One switch, one problem. Darkness teaches quickly. I cut the power. The cabin goes black all at once. Inside, movement stops, then starts again fast. Perfect. Now the threshold begins taking form.
Chapter 8. Proximity. Mara. We turn the final bend and I see the cabin through the trees. 1 second there is only road, shadow, and branch. The next there it is, half hidden and achingly familiar in the dark. The porch, the roofline, the slope of the ground down toward the water somewhere beyond what we can see from here. Then the light goes out. All of it. My entire body goes cold. No. Carver doesn't answer. He doesn't need to. He sees it too. The cabin was lit 1 second ago. The next, it's dead dark against the tree line. He doesn't slow as much as he should on the gravel turn-in. Tires spit stone. The engine growls once, then steadies as he kills the headlights earlier than I expect. Good. He's already thinking tactically. I'm out of the car before he fully stops. Mara, he says forcibly through clenched teeth. I freeze because the tone in his voice is the one men like him use when adrenaline is about to make someone stupid. What? We don't know where he is yet. My father's in there. I know. He steps out and closes the driver's door with controlled force. No slamming. No announcing. That's why you don't go running blind into the dark where someone else picked the conditions. I hate that he's right. More than that, I hate that he has to be. We stand in the dark listening. The woods have gone too still. Even the mountain feels like it's waiting. Then, faintly, from the direction of the cabin, a door opens. Not outside, inside. I know that sound the way you know childhood without needing memory to explain it. The old pantry door by the kitchen. It always drags at the hinge before it swings. My father is moving around inside. Alive, for now. Carver hears something too and lifts one hand slightly, signaling silence more than commanding it. We listen. A footstep. Then another. Then the metallic knock of something hard against counterwood. Candles, maybe. Flashlight. Old men who spend enough time at cabins without service keep backup light the way city people keep chargers. He's up, I whisper. Carver nods once. I hear him undo the snap of his shoulder rig. Good, he whispers. The word feels wrong in my ears, but I understand what he means. Moving means not surprised enough to have already lost control. Then I feel it. Not full pressure, not entry. The window. A sudden, sharp flicker behind my eyes, like a reflection trying to settle into focus. The residue opens for half a second, and I catch something from Nathaniel so fast, I almost think I imagined it. Cold metal, wet leaves, the side of the cabin. He's outside. Close. I grab Carver's sleeve before I realize I'm doing it. He's here. Carver turns to me, not startled, just immediate. Where? Outside, side of the cabin. I don't know exactly. The flicker is gone. Damn it. You just what? I felt him. That sentence should sound insane. It doesn't. Not here, not now. Carver absorbs it with the same practical stillness he's been using all day. Can you get it back? I don't know. He looks toward the tree line flanking the cabin, measures the slope, the porch, the side path. Then, stay behind me until we know his angle. No. He looks at me. No, I say again, quieter but no less certain. If he's near the cabin, then he's near my father. I'm not staying behind you. Something in his face changes, not frustration, decision. Fine, he says. But you do exactly what I say when I say it. That's as close to agreement as either of us will get. Another sound from inside the cabin. My father's voice this time. Distant. Irritated. Talking to himself the way men do when power goes out in a place they built too much routine around. Good. Alive. Alert. Unaware of the full shape of the danger, but still himself. For one fragile second, that's enough to keep me steady. Then something moves to the left of the clearing. Not much. Just the suggestion of a darker shape crossing dark. Carver sees it too. I know because every part of him changes direction at once without visible movement. The hunt is no longer theory. It's here. And for the first time since Nathaniel entered my life, we are all inside the same night.